We don't always catch the moment a family makes a decision. Sometimes it's just a sentence delivered too smoothly, like it's been rehearsed on the drive home from a board meeting. Marion Blake's story starts that way, quiet, clean, and cutting. Marion is an artificial intelligence engineer, the kind who'd rather build something true than sell something pretty. What happened to her matters because the pain wasn't loud. It was controlled. The kind of rejection that makes you doubt your own presence. If you'd like to stay with stories like this, it helps when you follow Revenge Sins nothing dramatic. Just a small way to keep these voices from getting buried. This is where Marion takes over. I was standing in my kitchen near Kendall Square, staring at a sink full of plates I hadn't washed yet, when my phone lit up with my mother's name. Daphne. I didn't brace myself fast enough. I never did with her. Hi, Mom. Her breath sounded steady, like she'd already decided how this would go. Marion. I'm calling about New Year's Eve. Okay. A pause. Not an awkward one, a deliberate one. This year is not a family dinner. It's more of a reception. I leaned my hip against the counter. Ethan's hosting. Yes, there will be hospital people, investment people, the kind of guests who expect a certain atmosphere. I waited because she didn't call to give me a schedule. Her voice softened by half a degree. It might be better if you didn't come. The words landed plain. No apology attached. I'm sorry. My mouth felt dry. You're uninviting me. I'm trying to protect you from an unpleasant night. Protect me from what? She didn't answer that. She went around it, the way she always did. You've been tense lately. I haven't even been there. Another pause. Then the real line, the one she'd been saving. You make people uncomfortable. My fingers tightened around the phone until my knuckles ached. By existing, that's not what I said. It's what you meant. She exhaled, a small sound of impatience. Marion, don't turn this into something it doesn't have to be. Ethan needs this night to go well. Your father needs it to go well. If you show up with whatever you're carrying, it changes the room. I swallowed hard. So the room matters more than I do. Don't be dramatic. I'm not. I'm being literal. In the background, I heard a faint clink glass against glass, like she was already in motion, already walking through the version of the evening where I wasn't there. Take thee out, she added, quieter now. Stay home. Rest. Start the year fresh. My throat burned. You didn't even ask if I wanted to be with you. Silence. Then, like a door closing gently. Good night, Marion. The call ended. For a second, I just stood there with my phone against my ear, listening to nothing. We've heard plenty of families cut people off. What stays with you here is how calmly it happened, like it was part of the plan. I set the phone down on the counter and stared at the dark screen. My calendar notification for New Year's Eve was still there, a little block of time that suddenly didn't belong to me anymore. I didn't tell anyone about the call that night. I rinsed the plates, stacked them crooked in the rack, and opened my laptop like I always did when I didn't know what else to do with my hands. The next morning, Ethan texted, "Hey, you around today?" No greeting, no context. I typed back, "Working. What's up?" A few minutes passed. Then, Dad wants to do lunch tomorrow. White Plains. I stared at the message. Lunch with Dad usually meant a conference room, not a table. I replied yes before I could talk myself out of it. The building looked the same as always. Glass, steel. The company name etched into the lobby wall like it had always belonged there. At the security desk, the woman scanned my badge, hesitated, then waved me through anyway. Upstairs, my father was already seated, jacket off, sleeves rolled. He smiled when he saw me. There she is. I leaned in for a quick hug. He smelled like coffee and aftershave. Familiar, comforting in a way that still caught me off guard. Ethan arrived late, phone pressed to his ear. He ended the call without apology and dropped into the chair across from me. Crazy week. he said. Board's been relentless. Dad nodded. Hospitals are cautious right now. Everyone's cautious. No one asked how I was. We ate in silence for a bit. I picked at my salad. Ethan scrolled through emails, thumb moving fast. Finally, Dad looked up. Your mother mentioned you might be laying low for New Year's. My fork paused midair. She mentioned that. Ethan glanced up, eyebrows lifting. Oh, that, I echoed. He shrugged. Too casual. It's not personal. It's just a big night. Big for who? For the company. Dad cleared his throat. Marion, you know how these things work. Appearances matter. I set my fork down. Do I matter? The table went quiet. Ethan leaned back, arms crossed. You're reading into it. I was told I make people uncomfortable. Dad winced. Your mother didn't mean it like that. She said exactly that. Ethan let out a short breath. You don't exactly blend at these things. You know that. Something tightened in my chest. So the solution is to remove me. No one answered. We notice how silence does most of the work in moments like this. No raised voices. No slammed doors. Just agreement through stillness. Dad finally spoke. Softer. You're brilliant. You always have been. But this family runs on relationships. You chose a different path. I didn't choose to be excluded. Ethan checked his watch. Look, none of this has to be dramatic. Just give us some space right now. After the quarter closes, things will settle. I nodded, because that's what I'd been trained to do. Make it easier. Keep the room calm. When lunch ended, Dad squeezed my shoulder. We're proud of you. You know that. I walked back to the elevator with that sentence echoing in my head, trying to remember the last time it had felt true. I took the train back to Cambridge and opened my laptop before I'd even taken my coat off. That was my reflex. If I stayed still too long, my thoughts got loud. My screen filled with lines of code, comments I'd written to myself months ago, little reminders. Fix this later. Test edge cases. Don't forget why this matters. My phone buzzed on the desk. Did lunch go okay? It was Lena, one of my co-founders. It went. I typed back. Same as always. She called instead of replying. You sound tired, she said. Not accusing, just noticing. I am. There was a pause. Then, gently. They still don't get what you're building. Do they? I let out a short breath. They think it's interesting. That's not nothing. It is when you say it the way they do. Lena didn't rush to fill the silence. She was good at that. Walk me through the new diagnostic layer, she said finally. The one you were excited about last week. I turned back to the screen, fingers hovering. It's not flashy. That's the problem. It just works. It threads imaging data with patient history in a way that catches patterns earlier than humans do. That sounds flashy to me. It doesn't demo well. No pretty graphs. Just accuracy. Accuracy saves lives. I know. Another pause. Then, quieter. Have you told your family that part? I pictured my mother's face at dinner. The polite smile. The way she leaned in when someone important spoke. No, I said. They don't ask. That night, I stayed up late running simulations. At one point, I realized I hadn't eaten dinner. I grabbed a granola bar from the drawer and kept going. Around midnight, an email notification popped up. From Ethan. Can you send over a high-level overview of what you're working on these days? Investors are curious about where tech is headed. I stared at the message longer than I needed to. High-level, curious. The words felt carefully chosen. I typed back, deleted it, typed again. Happy to talk conceptually. No proprietary materials. The reply came fast. Of course. Family first. I closed my laptop and leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling. We hear this moment differently when we listen closely. It's the first time the work becomes visible to the people who once ignored it. The next day, I met my advisor, Professor Adler, at a cafe near campus. She slid my coffee across the table. "You look like someone just noticed your value," she said. I laughed once, sharp. "That obvious." She studied me. "Just remember, interest and respect aren't the same thing." I nodded, even though my chest felt tight. When I walked back to the lab, my badge beeped at the door, a small, ordinary sound. Inside, the monitors glowed, steady and patient. This was the part of my life that didn't ask me to perform. It just asked me to be precise. My mother called 2 days later, early enough that my coffee was still too hot to drink. "Marion," she began, "already moving, already busy. I could hear heels on tile. I don't have much time." "Okay. Your brother is under an incredible amount of pressure right now. The board is nervous. Hospitals are delaying commitments. Everyone is waiting for someone else to blink." I held the mug with both hands, feeling the heat through the ceramic. "And you're calling because you have something that could stabilize this quarter." The word landed wrong. Stabilize. "I consult," I said carefully. "That's all I've agreed to." "Yes, and that's been helpful." She paused, just long enough to sound reasonable. "But if Ethan had access to your framework, temporarily, just as a bridge to what? To calmer ground? To time?" Her voice softened. "Nothing permanent. Your work stays yours." I stared at the steam rising from the mug. "You're asking me to hand over my architecture. I'm asking you to help your family. They're not the same thing." She exhaled, sharp. "Marion, don't get rigid. This is how things work at this level. People share. People support each other. People document ownership." I said, "Or they lose it." Her tone cooled. "You're being dramatic." I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger, recognition. "I need to think." I told her, "Don't take too long. Ethan doesn't have the luxury of principles right now." The call ended before I could respond. An hour later, I was sitting across from Thomas Riley in his office near the Common. He wore wire-frame glasses and pushed a legal pad toward me without ceremony. "Walk me through exactly what she said." I did, word for word. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he leaned back. "That wasn't a suggestion." He said, "That was a test." "A test of what?" "How much of your work you're willing to give away without asking for anything in return." I swallowed. "They said it would be temporary." He nodded once. "Temporary is a feeling. Paper is permanent." He flipped the pad around and wrote slowly, deliberately. "Assignment of inventions. Scope of consulting. Derivative works. If you share core architecture without a licensing agreement, you're exposed," he continued. "Family pressure doesn't change that. I don't want to hurt them. I know." He met my eyes. "But you don't protect relationships by surrendering your future." We've seen this moment before. The quiet room. The professional voice saying what the family won't. I left his office with a thin folder under my arm and a heavier weight in my stomach. That evening, I emailed Ethan. "I can explain concepts at a high level. I won't transfer code, models, or system architecture." His reply came fast. "Understood. Mom worries you're pulling away. I'm setting boundaries. Same thing sometimes." I stared at the screen, then shut the laptop. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. Someone laughed across the way. Ordinary life, continuing. I sat at the kitchen table long after dark, the folder unopened beside me, knowing that whatever came next wouldn't be temporary at all. Ethan invited me to sit in on a pitch the following week. "Just listen." His email said, "No pressure. It'll be good for you to see how these conversations go." That alone told me I wasn't meant to speak. The conference room in White Plains was colder than the hallway. Long table, glass wall, a tray of untouched pastries at the far end. Ethan stood near the screen, jacket off, sleeves rolled like he wanted to look busy and approachable at the same time. 2 investors took seats across from him. 1 woman, 1 man, both polite, both alert. I stayed near the wall with my notebook closed on my lap. Ethan clicked through the first few slides. Market conditions, hospital hesitancy, timing. Nothing new. Then he shifted. What we're really excited about, he continued, is an internal diagnostic framework we've been developing. I looked up. The words on the slide weren't copied exactly, but the structure was familiar. Too familiar. The way data streams were layered, the phrasing, even the order. The woman leaned forward. Is this proprietary? Yes, Ethan replied easily. Built in-house. My chest tightened. He kept talking. Early detection, pattern threading, reduced false negatives. All things I'd written. All things I'd tested at 2 a.m. with cold coffee and a knot in my back. The man glanced in my direction. And you are? Ethan smiled. That's my sister, Marion. She helps us think through some of the technical angles. Helps. I felt heat rise up my neck, then settle. Heavy. Still. The woman nodded. Impressive work. Ethan thanked her. No one looked at me again. We notice how quickly a room decides who belongs to the work and who belongs to the wall. When the meeting ended, Ethan walked them out, laughing softly, promising follow-ups. I stayed behind, stacking my notebook and pen even though I hadn't written a word. He came back a minute later. Good session, he said. They're interested. In what? He hesitated. Just a beat. In direction. That wasn't direction. Marion. His tone shifted, quieter. This is how translation works. Raw ideas get shaped. They were already shaped. He studied me. You're being sensitive. I felt my hands curl into my sleeves. You used my language. He shrugged. Language isn't ownership. My architecture is. That's not what anyone else in that room heard. Silence stretched between us. Look, he added, glancing at his phone. This only works if we're aligned. I am aligned, I said. I'm not invisible. He didn't answer that, just opened the door and gestured me out first. In the elevator, the mirrored walls reflected us side by side. Same last name, same height, very different roles. When I stepped outside, my phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Ethan says the meeting went well. Proud of you both. I slipped the phone into my pocket without replying and walked to the train, replaying every word I hadn't been invited to say. The document arrived the following Monday, printed, not emailed. Ethan asked me to come by his office for a quick review. That alone made my stomach tighten. Nothing quick ever involved paper. He handed it to me without sitting down. Thick, clean. My name already typed on the first page. Standard, he said. Just something legal wants in place before we move forward. I didn't open it right away. I flipped through, slow, feeling the weight of it in my hands. Assignment of inventions, scope of work, derivative materials. My throat went dry. This transfers ownership, I said, keeping my voice even. Not temporarily. Permanently. Ethan leaned against the desk. It clarifies things. It gives you my work. It protects the company. It erases me. He smiled. The one he used with donors. That's dramatic. I looked up. You already presented parts of my framework as internal. Conceptually. You said proprietary, because it would be. If I sign this? Silence stretched. Then he spoke carefully. This is bigger than you. The door opened behind me. My mother walked in, coat still on, purse tucked under her arm like she'd timed it. I thought I'd join, she said, in case things got emotional. I laughed once, short and sharp. Too late. She stepped closer, eyes on the paper. Marion, we don't have time for idealism. This quarter decides everything. For who? For your father's legacy. For the employees. For this family. My work isn't a family asset. Her expression hardened. Everything you have comes from this family. I felt something cold settle in my chest. You didn't come to my graduation. That's not fair. You don't know what I built. That's not the point. Ethan tapped the paper. Sign it. We move forward. You stay part of this. And if I don't, my mother answered before he could. Then you're choosing distance. I stared at the page, the place where my signature was expected to live forever. We recognized this moment, not as a blow-up, but as a narrowing. Fewer options. Less air. I slid the document back across the desk. No. Ethan's jaw tightened. Careful. I've been careful for years. You don't want to turn this into a legal fight. I didn't. You did. My mother's voice dropped. Family doesn't sue family. I'm not suing anyone. I said. I'm refusing to disappear. She straightened. Then don't come to Thanksgiving. The words landed clean. Ethan looked away. I stood, hands shaking now, unable to stop it. You already decided that. Neither of them stopped me when I reached for the door. That night, my phone stayed quiet. No group messages, no updates. My calendar invitation for Thanksgiving vanished without explanation. I sat at my kitchen table with a bowl of soup going cold in front of me, listening to the radiator click. The paper lay unopened in my bag, like something poisonous I hadn't touched but somehow still carried, and for the first time, I understood this wasn't about my work anymore. It was about whether I was allowed to exist without handing myself over. I spent New Year's Eve on my couch with the lights off, my laptop open but untouched. Outside, somewhere down the block, people were already shouting, early and careless, like they were afraid the year might leave without them. At 11:48, my phone buzzed. A message from Lena. Whatever happens tonight, I'm proud of you. I typed back a heart and put the phone face down. The embargo clock sat in the corner of my screen. 12 minutes, then 10. My email refreshed on its own. The subject line I'd memorized for weeks stared back at me. Helix Thread Technology sets record valuation. Ahead of public offering. I didn't open it. Not yet. On my phone. Ethan's social feed updated. A video from the house in Darien. White lights wrapped around the columns. Champagne glasses raised. My mother in black. Smiling like this night had always been inevitable. At 11:59, my hands started to shake. I stood up, walked to the window, pressed my forehead lightly against the glass. Fireworks were already going off over the river. Someone across the street yelled out a countdown, off by a few seconds. 10, 9, 8. I walked back to the couch and sat. 3, 2, 1. The laptop refreshed. The headline filled the screen. My company's name. The valuation, written out in long, careful words. My name underneath it, spelled right. At 12:01, my phone exploded. Calls, messages, notifications stacking on top of each other until the screen lagged. Then one call broke through. Ethan. I let it ring twice before answering. What did you do? His voice was loud, sharp, frayed at the edges. I told the truth. Behind him, I could hear chaos. Glass clinking, someone crying. My mother's voice, tight and fast. You went public. He continued. You put everything out there. Yes, you violated the agreement. The agreement you tried to make me sign? This is destroying us. I didn't destroy anything. I said, I stopped you from doing it quietly. He laughed, wild and thin. Investors are calling. The board is calling. Dad can't breathe right. I closed my eyes. Tell him to sit down. There was a pause. Not long. Just enough. You're really doing this, Ethan said. On New Year's. You chose the timing when you erased me. We've learned to recognize this sound. Not anger anymore. Panic. Control slipping. You could have handled this privately, he added. I tried. Silence again. You always make things uncomfortable. He said finally. I felt something settle instead of sting. That's because I won't lie for you. The line went dead. My phone rang again. This time, my mother. I didn't answer. I opened the article, scrolled slowly. Emails. Dates. The patent filing spelled out in plain language. A quote from my advisor. Another from legal. Outside, fireworks burst again, bright and loud. I sat there while the world reacted without me saying another word. For once, I didn't need to explain myself. The truth was already speaking. I didn't sleep. At some point near dawn, the city went quiet again. The leftover fireworks smoke drifted past my window like it had nowhere else to go. My phone lay on the coffee table, screen dark, finally tired of vibrating. I made coffee and drank it standing up. Around 8, Lena called. You okay? I think so. That's not a yes. I stared at the sink. I'm intact. She exhaled. The board put him on administrative leave. I closed my eyes. Already. They didn't have a choice. Too much documentation. Too many eyes. A pause. You didn't cause this. I know, but my stomach still twisted. By late morning, the headlines shifted. Less about the valuation, more about governance, ethics, words my family used to say like they were part of the decor. An unfamiliar number came through. I let it ring once, then answered. Marion Blake. This is Samuel Ortiz. I'm calling on behalf of the board. His voice was measured, professional, careful not to step wrong. We wanted to inform you directly. Ethan has been asked to step aside pending review. I leaned against the counter. I'm not surprised. We'd also like to acknowledge the harm done to you. That landed heavier than I expected. He continued, We are commissioning an independent audit of all intellectual property representations. Good. We may request your cooperation. I'll speak with counsel. Of course. The call ended cleanly. We hear a shift here. Not celebration, not relief, just a door closing with paperwork behind it. That afternoon, my mother emailed. No subject line. Marion. We need to talk. You've gone too far. People are losing confidence. This is bigger than your feelings. I stared at the screen for a long time. I typed back once, deleted it, then closed the laptop. In the early evening, another message arrived. Different tone. I'm scared. Just that. I didn't respond. Later, Thomas called. They're threatening noise, he said. Not substance. They don't have leverage. I don't want them ruined. You didn't ruin anyone. You told the truth. I looked around my apartment. The same chair, the same stack of notebooks. Nothing had changed. And yet everything had... Outside, someone laughed. A normal sound. I sat down, finally, and let my shoulders drop. For the first time since the call in my kitchen, there was space, not peace. Space. Enough room to breathe without shrinking. My phone buzzed once more. A message from Ethan. Can we talk? I turned the screen face down. Not yet. The quiet held, and for once, it didn't feel like punishment. The year didn't fix everything. It just slowed things down enough for me to notice what was still standing. I moved to San Francisco in the spring, a small place near the Mission. 1 bedroom, old floors that creaked when I walked barefoot. Nothing impressive. Mine. I unpacked in pieces, not rushing. The framed patent certificate went up last. I stared at it for a while before hanging it, then stepped back and let it be just another object on the wall. My father called once a month. Sometimes we talked about the weather, sometimes about work. He never asked me to come home. I never offered. Ethan stopped reaching out after I didn't answer the last message. I heard things through other people. Therapy. Consulting work. Silence where certainty used to be. I hoped he figured something out. From a distance. On New Year's Eve. 1 year later. I didn't turn the lights off. A few people from the team came over. Someone brought takeout that went cold while we argued about movies. Lena showed up late, hair still damp, laughing as she kicked off her shoes. At midnight, we clinked mismatched glasses. No speeches, no countdown shouted too loud. After they left, I stood by the window and watched the city settle. Fireworks in the distance, a couple walking a dog, ordinary things. My phone buzzed, a text from my dad. "Happy New Year, Marion. I love you." I let it sit for a minute, then typed back, "Happy New Year?" That was enough. I thought about the person I used to be. The version of Marion Blake who believed belonging meant staying quiet, who thought being included required shrinking, who kept offering pieces of herself, hoping someone would notice the cost. What changed wasn't the money or the headlines. It was the moment I stopped asking to be allowed to exist. I built a life where my work didn't need translation and my presence didn't need permission. That choice didn't make me lighter. It made me solid. If this story stays with you, following revenge, sins is one way these moments don't disappear when the noise fades. We don't hear triumph in her voice here, just steadiness, the kind that comes after someone decides to stop negotiating their own outline.